The behaviorist that I have chosen to research is John Anthony Nevin. John Anthony Nevin was born in 1933 in New York City. He passed away in September of 2018 when he was 85 years old. Nevin continued publishing his research up until only a few years before his death. He received his bachelor's from Yale University in mechanical engineering. He then received both his master's and PhD from Columbia University in psychology. Nevin received his PhD in psychology in 1963. He was active in this field up until his death in 2018. This included research, studies, practical application, and teaching at schools and professional development seminars. In 1963, Nevin became the assistant professor of psychology at Swarthmore College. He then became associate professor of psychology at Columbia University in 1968. In 1970, he was promoted to head professor and taught at the university for 2 years before moving to become head professor of psychology at University of New Hampshire. He retired in 1995 but remained active as a professor for 20 more years. Nevin was editor of the Journal of Experimental Analysis of Behavior. He published 57 articles in this journal and many other articles in other journals. He was the author of Behavioral Momentum, a Scientific Metaphor, as well as The Study of Behavior, Learning, Motivation, Emotion, and Instinct. In my research, I found that many of the articles written and published by Nevin were quite similar in theme. Most of the articles or journals are directly related to his development of behavioral momentum theory, and some are indirectly related to the theory by means of examining social issues, which was a personal passion of his, through the lens of behavioral momentum theory. One example is Behavioral Momentum Theory, Equations and Applications. In this article, published in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, Nevin outlines his framework for the theory of behavioral momentum. The article details the inner workings of his theory and outlines it very specifically, which is important if a reader is to follow along with his work. In the other article, Education and Treatment of Children, Nevin details treatment relapse and the events and stimuli surrounding a relapse. Nevin details applications for the developing theory of behavioral momentum and how this theory could be used to prevent relapse as well as continue treating students with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, or other developmental delays. By proposing real-life applications of his theory, Nevin goes on to describe and define generalization and maintenance of desired behaviors to avoid a treatment relapse. Behavioral momentum theory describes the general relation between resistance to change, the persistence of behavior, and the rate of reinforcement obtained in a given situation. Overall, Nevin contributed many notable articles to the literature surrounding applied behavior analysis. Each one of his articles connects to the others in a subtle or not so subtle way, but overall, he was very passionate about the theory of behavioral momentum and even more passionate about the practical applications of the theory, especially relating to people with ASD or other developmental delays. If I were able to interview Nevin today, these are some of the questions that I would ask him. The first question would be, what would you say was your core motivation for your research? Was it more for the knowledge or for the practical applications of the research? If you had to address one passion of yours besides your research of behavioral momentum theory, what would you say that passion is? You were the editor of the Journal of Experimental Analysis of Behavior, a professor at many prestigious institutions, and an author as well as a researcher. If you had to pursue only one of these fields, which one would you pursue? In your opinion, and including all of your success and accomplishments, what was your greatest contribution to the world? And lastly, I would ask him, if you could put the same time and energy into studying another facet of applied behavior analysis, as you did with behavioral momentum theory, what do you think you would study or research? Nevin was extremely important to ABA. Nevin was known for his contributions to developing behavioral momentum theory. Through his work and emphasis on practical applications of this theory, he not only impacted the literature and research side of the behavior analysis, but impacted the lives of many people with ASD and developmental delays. The impact of his work is immeasurable because his work is ingrained into the lives of people who are still benefiting from his research. So many people were personally impacted in a positive way. Some of the main things that his work focused on in regards to people with ASD or developmental delays were developing treatment plans for children who engaged in self-injurious behaviors or aggression towards other people. Today, Nevin's work lives on in countless ABA treatment clinics and facilities. By utilizing his research and the study of behavioral momentum theory, practitioners are able to extinct the dangerous behaviors from a young age and help replace them with more appropriate and desirable behaviors. This impact is immeasurable because it is hard to say what the state of some of these people would be if not for Nevin's dedication and passion for his research and the practical application of it.